All right, everyone, it's Scott over here at UKG. I wanted to run through the carryover hours scenario, just show you how it'll work. I tweaked this a tiny bit from our demonstration and added the carryover hours in. So I want to explain how everything works as we go here. But the idea, of course, is on the working Friday. So in this case, Friday, May 2nd here, the employee works past noon. So let's just say they work, and I don't care the times here. Let's do 7 in the morning until 12:30. Okay. So in this case, they've worked 5.5 hours, and then they work again, and let's say they went to lunch or whatever the case may be, and they work until let's do till, I don't know, 4 o'clock, whatever we want to do there. So now the employee has a total of 8.5 worked hours. But what we're really looking at is we're looking for everything after 12 to be moved to the next week. So in this case, 7 a.m. to 12:30, well, 30 minutes there obviously is going to be included. So we got a 0.5. And then from 1 to 4, those 3 hours just straight across. So in this case, 3.5 hours. So I'm going to go ahead and save this. And I want to stress this next part, what's happened on the back end. Looks the same, right? We have the exact same thing in there. Well, on the back end, we've got something in the system. We call these counters. The system is just basically adding everything up for us. So if we look down here, first off, the employee looks like they get a meal premium because they worked 7 to 12:30 or whatever it was. So they went over their 5 hours. So they got that. And then they had regular hours worked of a total of 5, and 3.5 of those hours are what we're calling day split. Now, when we actually show you this or set it up in your system, rather, you may want to hide these because we want this to kind of run behind the scenes, but I've got it open so we can see everything that's going on right now. So they go into this underscore day split hours, and then they go into this thing called day split hours here. There's a difference between these two. This one here goes into a permanent bucket that gets pushed to the following week. This one stays here, and we want to know that those hours were worked on that day because, like, what if the employee goes into an overtime situation? Do we want those hours to count? How do we want the overtime to work? We need to know all that. But let's simplify this a little and just go to the next week. All we've done so far is we've said, look, they worked 3.5 hours past noon, 30 minutes plus the 3.5 hours. So we go to the following week. Now at this point, we're on Saturday, then that following Saturday, you see we don't have any hours there, there's nothing. If I go to the counters tab, there's nothing there. That's because there's going to be a process that runs at night automatically, or if the employee works, one of the two, and it'll take the hours from that previous week and drop them in here. To trigger this, I'm just going to hit the save button on the week, and that'll generate the hours. And now we see those hours have become carryover hours. So this is what it's going to look like on the back end. We're going to have 3.5 hours of carryover hours. For purposes of everything in the system, these are likely just going to count towards overtime. They're just considered regular hours, but we've labeled them carryover hours, so we kind of know where they came from. So back on that previous week, we've still got all the time in there, but notice that underscore day split hours got cleared out. So the original record stated this is what they worked, but that underscore got removed and it just sort of got converted into what's called carryover hours. And I'm going to show you the rule behind the system on that. Again, these are things we set up for you, but it just might be interesting to see what's happening there. So, all right, we're going to start here and we're telling the system, hey, when we've got, and let's back up even a step from this. Let's go up to the day split hours. When we go to your day split hours, we're telling the system, hey, anything from Friday at noon up till Saturday at midnight. Think of this as sort of end of day Friday is what that's thinking there. Anything that goes from there, put it in this day split counters. Normally it goes into regular because we need to know regular versus overtime, but we're putting it into there. Okay, so that's step one that happens. The hours when they occur after Friday at noon, they get dumped into there. Okay, now we're going to go down to the bottom of your list and we're going to say, all right, first thing we do is when that happens, we're going to copy those day split hours. We're going to copy them into that underscore day split. And that underscore day split's like a permanent bucket that only clears out when we tell it to. And then, excuse me, down here, they've got the counter carryover hours get set to the value of the day split hours. So what this one's doing is it's saying, hey, every week on Saturday, go in and get the value of that underscore day split hours. And these have an database identifier. That's all that is on the back end. But it's saying grab the value of that day split and set it. So that's when we saw the 3.5 hours appear on Saturday when I hit the save button. This is what happened. Okay. So that happened. And then here, the system says, let's clear that out because we've used it now. We put all the hours where they need to be into the carryover. Here on Sunday, clear that out. So Saturday, it copies anything and drops it in there. So it works just like we saw. Sunday, it clears it so it's gone. So we don't do it again week after week after week. And then from there, the rates are applied and everything just happens in the system. So that's how that piece works. That's how the carryover hours appear. And you can do this like, let's go back here. Let's go back to the previous week. I'm just going to delete this and we're going to do it differently. So first off, I'm going to delete it and save it. And I'm going to go to the counters just so you see there's nothing there. So we delete it and save it. And I'm going to go to the next week. And this isn't something we'd normally do, obviously. We're not going to delete things, re-add, delete, re-add. But I'm going to save this here so the system will clear out those counters from that day. So now this gets cleaned out too. So there's nothing there. All right. So now we're going to go back. And this time, instead of working, like we're just going to have them work straight through. They work 8 hours, 8 to 4. So we're just going to do that. We're going to go ahead and save. Okay, here we've got the total of 8 hours, but up here, see how it's just 4 regular? If I go to my counters, we'll see that 4 of those hours got dumped into that day split. That's why it's not showing up there up top, is we got that day split, which then, of course, is going to go to the next week. So I move to next week. Again, I have to hit save here. This will happen automatically, but we're simulating this happening, so I've got to trigger it by hitting save. And then the carryover hours are back into that week. And then that's just how the process works in general. Anything afternoon just gets automatically moved over to the next week. We'll label it any way you'd like. You can definitely report on these hours. You can see any level of detail you'd like on those. But I hope this explains how that works. But obviously, let us know if you have questions.